Hello, my name is Dean Garrido, and today I'm going to be talking about income inequality in Los Angeles County. So, a little introduction. The main causes of income inequality in Los Angeles County are the educational system, racial and socially classed neighborhoods in the area, along with an increased pay gap between social classes and races, and then finally, the shrinking middle class that is taking place. So, a little background on income inequality in Los Angeles. The median white household has 13 times the wealth of the median black household and more than 10 times the amount of that of Latinos. And what is the main cause of this is the housing policy that was created decades ago. The housing policy has consistently provided upward mobility for whites while impoverishing blacks. And I'll get into this later on in my presentation. But today we're going to start out with the educational system. So, LA has the largest gap in human development scores in the US. It has been, it has three of the highest neighborhood index scores in Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach, and Hermosa Beach, but also has two of the lowest neighborhood index scores in South Central LA and Watts. So, this means that many of the richest neighborhoods have the most educated and most or the smartest kids, and then the impoverished areas have the least educated and the I don't know less smarter kids. So here you can see that the white scores for math versus income are much higher than blacks. And the top scoring neighborhoods usually have higher educational achievements and earnings, while the bottom scoring neighborhoods have less educational and less earnings. And it's actually below the average of the US in 1970. So it's very low compared to the average middle class person or wealthier person. Schools in impoverished areas have less resources available to students to get them help, where the rich white schools normally have tutors for every subject, for every class, so it allows them a better opportunity to pass their classes and to be more educated. And here you can see that the graduation rates for whites versus black students is very much leaning towards the whites, where it's a lot harder for blacks and impoverished people to graduate high school with their opportunities given to them. Um, Black schools are often overcrowded and lacking infrastructure, and this makes it really tough on the students to learn, and it creates an environment that's kind of depressing and not very motivating. Whereas if you're at a rich white school, you have a lot of opportunities handed to you and put right in front of you to want to learn and want to better yourself. This makes it very difficult for blacks to earn um, a high school degree and maybe earn a college degree later in life. So now I'm going to move on to the social and racial class neighborhoods. So the Federal Housing Authority Act that was put into place in 1934 has still have an impact on today in Los Angeles. So the FHA made the purchase and construction of houses more affordable, but whites were the only ones able to take advantage of this offer because the FHA categorized neighborhoods by color-coded desirability scale. Green was the most desirable and red being the least desirable. So these redlining neighborhoods were mostly characterized by close proximities to industrial areas or pollution plants, and they were majority populated by blacks or Hispanics. So these redline areas were unable to qualify for the benefits of FHA, and this made it very hard for blacks to own their own houses or even just find proper housing to house a whole family. And this really kind of had a tumble effect where if either you get into a house with really bad mortgage and you have to pay extra than a normal person would, or you would have to be jumping between houses, making it really hard for your family to adapt to the area. And it kind of just had everything come into effect where it is a very tough time for these Black and Hispanic people trying to live in Los Angeles County. And here you can see that whites have a 64% rate of home ownership, where Blacks only have a 33% in Los Angeles County. So it was very hard for Blacks to get housing in Los Angeles, where whites often found housing very easily and could afford it given their well-paying jobs. So the other main cause of income inequality in LA is increased pay gap. So the substantial pay gap between Blacks and whites has caused an increase in income inequality in LA. As you can see here, from 2011 to present, it has increased quite rapidly and is very steady. So um, the income inequality that this is creating is very much prominent because of stagnant wages that have been caused in the past years, where Blacks only earn about 18.5% or 18.5 dollars, where whites earn $25. And this really takes a toll on how much earnings Blacks versus whites get in the long run. As you can see here, Blacks earn significantly less than whites do in every percentile. And it kind of really goes to show that the impoverished areas in Los Angeles and the very wealthy areas like Bel Air are very far apart and have a very big pay gap difference. This leads to a spiral effect where the rich earn more and the poor earn less. So as you can see here, the top 1% has been increasing very rapidly, while the bottom 50% has also been decreasing very rapidly. And this is like a very big problem for income inequality, because as the rich are getting richer, that's making the poor become poor because the middle class is shrinking. And I'll talk about that a little more in a sec, but this causes a big separation between the classes, and it really forces a lot of impoverished Black Americans into low-paying jobs, where the whites can get most of the better-paying jobs in the offices. So in the shrinking middle class, there's been a decline for quite a while now in the entire US, but it's been a little bit more prominent in California. And as you can see here, it's already gone down 10% in the past 30 years. And it's a very big decrease to happen in such a small time, because as the middle class is shrinking, the upper class and the lower class are increasing. This causes a very big shortage in the middle class. And as you can see, if current and past trends continue, there will be no middle class by 2050. Now, as on this graph, you can see that the median income for households has been quite steady, but this is because the increase in high income families and the increase in low income families have kind of equaled out. So it kind of causes a false middle class, where you see the same median income, but it's only because the rich are earning more and the poor are earning less. So it kind of equals out in a sense. And it shows that there's no middle class, which is kind of a very misleading, and it kind of hampers on the fact that um we're kind of putting aside the middle class is shrinking and like putting it in the background, when it should be brought to the attention of many people and made a prominent thing so that we can stop this. It makes it very hard for impoverished Blacks or Hispanics to find more opportunities to increase their social class, because there's no really middle ground. If they go from very poor, they can't just go straight to rich. They have to work their way up, and there's less opportunities in that middle ground right now because the middle class is shrinking. So in conclusion, To reduce income inequality in LA, we need to have more educational opportunities in impoverished areas. We need to have better housing policies in poor neighborhoods so that it's easier for them to own their own home. We also need to increase minimum wage to allow more low skilled labor earnings. And this is actually happening right now with the current policies in place, which is very good. And lastly, we need to create more opportunities for middle class families to allow those impoverished people to work their way up and better themselves. Thank you for listening. And here's my bibliography for all the citings of the sources I used.